Alrighty, this video is going to be on respecting the word no, respecting a woman's no specifically. This is sort of geared towards men, and for and about women too, but something a lot of women are dealing with that I've experienced, and I want to put it out there. I've been pretty judgy and harsh on women sometimes when I see women airing their dirty laundry on Facebook or social media, and they're ranting about their partner. And a lot of times they do it low key, like they do it through memes, or they hint at things. They don't always come out and just say like, hey, my man is doing this, or he's fucking up, or whatever. They just post a lot of like ridiculous memes that people know who they're talking about. Like, their friends and their partner's friends know. And I'm like, that's crazy, because like that can't really be helpful towards your relationship, right? If you're putting it all out there. And I would say, well, why aren't you talking to your partner? Why are you putting it on Facebook and social media? Why are you not talking directly to your partner about these things, right? But now I understand why. It's because they're not being seen, heard, and understood and respected by their partner. In a lot of cases, women are talking to their partner. They are telling them what's wrong. They are telling them what's bothering them. And their partner is either like not hearing them or brushing them off, like, oh, you're being ridiculous, or, you're taking shit too seriously, or whatever. Like, they kind of dismiss them, and they're not really hearing them or respecting them, and what their needs are in that relationship. And, and to be fair, there's a lot of crazy bitches out there. I'm not saying it's always the guys. There's a lot of women out there that, I actually call out women on their shit more than I do men. But it's time to kind of call out the men here on some things. And it's not to be mean or like, to pick on people. It's really to make people aware of this shit so you can heal it, right? And so the biggest thing is respecting the no. And a lot of times men are so used to being in control, being the ones always in control of every little detail in their life. And they do this with their daughters, and they don't realize that the way that they treat their daughters in this way sets the tone for the type of men that their daughters end up dating. So, if you're a man and you're like, hey, no man better ever disrespect my daughter, I'll kick his ass, right? So if that's your logic, the question you have to ask yourself is, are you truly respecting your daughter? Are you respecting her no? Are you respecting her boundaries? Are you respecting her as an individual? Because if you're not, if you are treating her like a child that doesn't know her own mind, that doesn't know what she wants or needs, and you are treating her that way, she's going to end up with a dude that's going to treat her that way at some point, if she don't have the awareness and heal her shit and realize what she's doing. And so I'll just give a personal example here. To start up, I love my dad. I respect my dad. He's a good man. He's always been there and supportive of, me and my mom and my sister and family. He's always been a hard worker. He's always taken care of us and stood by us. So I love him and I respect him for that, this is not like a personal attack on my dad, but I have to vent about this because I've vented to him about it, and he don't care. He doesn't listen. It's just like through one ear and out the other. But a lot of times, we don't realize that our fathers have wounds. They have traumas and stuff that keeps them stuck, and keeps them from hearing us, because they can't hear us over their own pain and their own trauma. So I get that. So personal example here, I've been vegan for like 4 years. My dad does not respect that. If I cook something that's vegan, like if I make vegan tacos, I offer him that, and I tell him it's vegan tacos. Like, I don't try to trick him. I don't try to say, oh yeah, it's ground meat, it's regular ground meat, just try it. You know, I don't try to trick him into eating something he doesn't want to eat, because if it's vegan, he don't want it. It's just like, you know, it's like almost like a challenge kind of thing, because I'm vegan. He's just not gonna do anything I ask. You know, it's a stubborn thing. Like, I'm not eating that. You know, like, okay, it's vegetables, Dad. Like, so, you know, things that you grew up eating, vegetables. That's all it is. It's vegetables. It's plant-based, but he's not having it. He's old school. He's old-fashioned. He's stuck in his ways, and he's not changing anything, right? So I'd say maybe like 2 years ago, he called, and he said he was making a pot of red beans, right? And every time he cooks like a big pot of food, like red beans or spaghetti or something, he's always calling and asking if I want some. And so this was about 2 years ago, right? And I was like, I mean, you know, he makes them a lot like my mom did. So, and I liked her cooking, so it kind of reminds me of her cooking. And I'm like, yeah, I'll take some if you're not putting any like butter or meat in them. But otherwise, no, I'm okay. I'm good. And he's like, okay, yeah, I won't put that in there. You know, if you want some. And I'm like, okay, if you want to make it that way. And he's like, yeah, I'll just put mine in on the side. All right. So then he calls me when they're ready to come pick him up. And I don't know, it was just something that he said. Like, I kind of felt like he did put it in there. And I said, so you didn't put any meat or butter in it, right? And he's like, no. He's like, I just put it in mine on the side. And I'm like thinking, okay. And I said, well, I just want to make sure, because, you know, I haven't eaten that in so long. It might make me sick if I eat it, you know? And I think that triggered his guilt, because he was lying to me. And he's like, well, if you don't want to eat it, you just don't have to eat it. Like, whatever. Don't worry about it then. Because he's not going to admit that he was wrong. He's not going to admit that he lied to me. He's not going to admit that he put it in there and he's trying to trick me into eating it. And I was like, okay, well, never mind. I don't want any. Because I knew he was lying. And that's what pissed me off more than anything. Is like, why would you fucking lie to me about something like that? It's so disrespectful. Like, you don't respect me. You know, you don't respect my choices. To say, you know, yeah, I want to make it the way I want to make it. If you want it, like, because I don't need it. I'm perfectly capable of cooking my own food and buying what I want. Like, I don't need anybody cooking for me or taking care of me. I can do it. But sometimes I feel like I need to be receptive to the masculine, because, like, I feel like he's trying to do something. Like, you know, it's biological in men that they need to do something for the feminine. They want to help in some way, or, you know, and he's retired and my mom is passed, and so, you know, he's lonely, and I kind of feel like, all right, you know, like it gives him a feeling, a sense of purpose. So it's sort of like, okay, you know, like you know, I don't want to just always be like, no, I don't need nothing from you. Like, but it's gotten to that point now, because I'm pissed that I'm not being respected, I'm not being heard. And so it was about 2 years after that I didn't accept any kind of food from him. I was like, I'm not eating anything he cooks, because I don't trust him. And that's sad. That's sad that you've spent your whole life with somebody raising you that you can no longer trust over something so stupid and simple, right? That he can't just go, yeah, put it in there, or, you know, or just not put it in there, or just be honest. You know what I'm saying? Just be honest. Want to make it the way you want to make it the way you want to make it. But don't lie to me to try to trick me into eating it. And so after about 2 years, he asked me again. He's like, well, you know, like, he had asked me several times and I kept telling him no. And so then he goes and he made a pot of white beans one day, and he was like, I'm not gonna put any meat or anything in it, or no butter, if you want any. And I'm like, so I tried. This is my weakness, I guess, is that I'm too passive sometimes, and I'm too willing to forgive and accept and try to give people the benefit of the doubt and trust them again after they've lied to me or something, or you know screwed with my trust. So I was like, yeah, okay. So I got them, and I, you know, sat down to eat them one day, and I open it up, and there's a big piece of pork chop sitting right there in the center of the fucking beans. And I'm like, are you really fucking kidding me right now? He really just did this again. It's no way he missed it. It's sitting right there in the center. And it's pork of all things. And like, if it was like some other kind of meat, I might pick it out and still eat the beans. I'm like, I'm not eating that shit at all. I'm not touching it. So, yeah, I didn't eat it. And so I was like, again, I'm like pissed, and I'm like, I'm not taking any food from him no more. I'm not taking any food from him no more. But he won't stop. Like, he keeps pushing it, like, you want some of this? I cooked this, and he pushed again. And so I gave him one more shot. He made some spaghetti recently, and he normally puts meatballs in it. And I was like, he's like, you sure you don't want any? I could take the meatballs out. And I'm like, yeah, if you want to make me some, you put a small bowl, don't put any meatballs in it, right? So, okay. So I go over, I pick it up, and then later on, next day, I sat down to eat it at my house, right? And I open it up, and and he had told me he put the meatballs in there, and when he gave it to me, he told me he put the meatballs in. And he's like, you could just throw them away or give them away. You give them to one of your neighbors or something. I'm like, yeah, Dad, I'm gonna knock on a neighbor's door, and you want some meatballs, You want these 2 meatballs that my dad put in here because he doesn't respect me, that I'm vegan. So, I got to give them away. No, I'm going to throw them in a fucking garbage can. So my sister didn't want them. She's kind of like, she's not fully vegan, but she's, she don't eat a lot of meat. But, so I don't know, something just triggered in me that day when I sat down to eat them, and I saw the meatballs in there, and I was like, just really pisses me off. I mean, I didn't go off on him in the moment, but it really, something like snapped in me that day when I sat down to eat that. And I was like, I got emotional. I was like, he really doesn't fucking respect me. He doesn't respect me. He doesn't respect me as an individual. He doesn't respect my choices. He does not respect me. And now I am, when people don't respect me, I don't respect them. So I lose respect for them. So I respect the person that he was and everything that he's done for me my whole life, but I don't respect this person that is not respecting me and my choices. And determined. It's almost like he's determined that his will is going to override mine, that he's going to force me to eat something that I don't want, that eventually if he keeps putting it in my face, I'm going to like, oh, well, let me just give up on this and start eating that again. It's going to tempt me. And I know what it is. It's his own personal demons that are telling him, like, just put it in there. She'll eat it. Just go ahead and tempt her. Let's see what she does. Push the boundaries. Piss her off. What's she gonna do? So she bitches about it. So what? And if I throw a fit about it, if I make a big issue about it, he's just gonna be like, well, don't fucking eat it. Like he's never gonna see it from that perspective of like, I'm not being respected. So it's pointless to keep having the same talk over and over again and saying, I don't want this. I don't want to eat this. Can you respect that? Because he's gonna, I guarantee you, if I took something else from it, there'd be fucking meat in it again. And so nothing. No, he's at this point. I want nothing from him. Nothing. I will not take food from him ever again. And it's not only that. It destroys trust on every level. Because if he's always listening to his demons that are telling him, yeah, screw with your daughter, fuck with her head. You put it in there anyway. Doesn't matter what she wants. Doesn't matter who she is. She's been vegan for 4 years and she's telling you not to put it in there. Put it in there anyway. He's listening to his demons. He's not listening to his higher self in his heart. Because if he was listening to his higher self in his heart, he would say, no, my daughter, this is important to her. I think it's silly, but whatever. I'll leave him out because I respect her choices. And I'm not going to, put it in her face. But no, like he could have literally just scooped those 2 out and set it back in his pot for him. You know what I'm saying? Like he did not have to put that in my portion. He chose to because he doesn't respect me or my choices or me as an individual. And so what happens is, my point with this is that a lot of times women end up with really poor boundaries. We don't know how to say no to our own fathers and stand up to them and say, this is not fucking acceptable. I'm not even gonna associate with you while you're not respecting me. I'm just gonna like detach here because you're not respecting me. Because we can't do that. Like, we can't really fully detach from our parents, right? Or siblings, or, you know, people that we've been related to our whole life. We can't really fully detach from them. They're a part of our lives. And you know, you love them, and, you know, you're not going to cut them out of your life because they got, you know, issues, or they don't, you know, fully respect you. You just distance yourself from them. And we tend to go into relationships like that. And I think this is one of the reasons why women stay in relationships with abusive men that don't respect their no. That, and I don't mean necessarily always physically abusive. I mean like mentally, emotionally abusive or controlling. You know, if a guy is overly controlling a woman and all her choices, and he's very narcissistic and like, you know, and, you know, he does shit and then goes, what's the big deal? It was just a joke. You know, you can't take a joke. Like, that's what, you know, that's what they do. It's just a joke. You know, you're taking this way too far. You're taking it too seriously. You're crazy. You know, they do shit to make you explode. And then they're like, you know, you're overreacting. Like, no, you are not respecting me or myself, you know, as an individual. And like, they want to fuck with you, but if you turn around and you fuck with them, they can't take it. Oh, you've gone too far. Like, you're, you know, you can't do the same to them because they can't take it. But this is, you know, why so many women end up in relationships with men that are like this. And these men that are like this, they target women like me. They target women that have strained relationships with their fathers, that have the father wound, that have dads that are very controlling or narcissistic or what do you say? I can't think of the word. But, you know, they target women like me. They look for women like me that are like, oh, she's weak, she's passive, she lets a lot of shit go. You know, she's very forgiving. She's very forgiving. So I could fuck up 3, 4, 5, 6 times and she ain't going nowhere. And we do this because, you know, women are kind of conditioned, like, you know, you don't walk away from your father. You know, if he's been a good man and he's been taking care of you and he's done all these things for you, you don't walk away. You just endure it and you put up with their shit. And you just accept who they are, even though they don't accept or respect who you are. You just learn to accept it. And then so we start taking that in relationships, and then we're not respected in these relationships. And then, you know, dad's always like, I'm a, you know, fuck up any guy that like treats my daughter with disrespect. But she's dating a guy that treats her with disrespect a lot of times because you treated her with disrespect. So it's a, you know, it's a cycle. It's a generational trauma thing. And we have to break it. So I'm breaking a lot of my loops that are in my family. I'm not, you know, I'm not putting up with that shit no more. You're gonna respect me as an individual, or you're not gonna have access to me, or you're gonna very limited. You know, there's certain people you can't cut out of your life because you can't. But I'm certainly not going to let men into my life that treat me that way, that don't respect me, that don't respect my no, that keep pushing my boundaries and testing me and saying, oh, what can I get away with? Ooh, how much can I get away with before she explodes or walks away? Like, I'm tired of that shit. No. Because I'd rather be alone in my peace. Because, no master. Isn't that what Queen Elizabeth said? No master here. You know, self-led, completely self-led. I'd rather be alone and completely at peace and self-led than with somebody that is trying to control me and manipulate me and gaslight me and you know, control every little fucking thing in my life. Like, a friend once said to me, if you learn to accept no sometimes, you might get more yeses. Is what she was saying. Not to me, but she was saying it about somebody, and it was good advice. If you learn to accept no sometimes, you might get more yeses. So if you learn to accept no, if you learn to accept defeat, if you learn to accept a woman's boundaries and you respect them, over time, she's going to give you more. She's going to want to give you more because she's going to trust you, that you respect her and her boundaries. So she's going to want to open up more to you. And she's going to want to say yes to more things when she's comfortable and safe and she knows that she can trust you because you're not fucking with her head and her heart, that you respect her as an individual. So it's really good advice. If you want to get more yeses and you want a genuine, real connection with a woman, then you have to respect her boundaries and her no's, and that she knows herself as an individual. And a lot of men can't do that because they're so used to being, and it's not like, in some of these cases, it's not like these men are being malicious. They just don't realize it. Like it's been conditioned in them for so long to always be in control, to always be the leader, the masculine lead. And they learned it in a lot of, sometimes in a very unhealthy way. And then they just carry that into their lives in the same way that women are conditioned to accept that. So it's a cycle that both sides need to break. And it's all about communication. And there's just some cases where, like, I have done a lot of inner work on myself, and I can communicate. I can sit down and fucking talk about anything and everything with somebody. I can communicate in a very healthy way. And my feelings, my emotions. But if the other person hasn't done any work, and they can never be wrong, and they can never see how they've hurt you, or they can never accept that, it's pointless. They're always going to be, defensive and shut down, and they're not really going to hear you, and they're just going to keep doing the same shit over and over again. They're going to keep repeating the same thing that hurts you. So, and I had posted yesterday on Instagram that I was going to do this video, and how this topic reminds me of the film The Nun. And I won't go really into details of the film, but I did see the second one recently, so I won't give away any major spoilers here. But just the general consensus of the film, I forgot, it was an interview I was watching about James Wan, the director, and he said something like that he loved the polarity of the story, and the way that this nun, which is supposed to be something holy and pure, is actually something very sinister inside. So it's like the dark within the light. And then it kind of triggered this thought from me. I'm like, well, the nuns themselves are kind of like that. I mean, so the nuns are completely denying their shadow, right? They are perfect and pure and completely devoted to God, and they're not, they won't even look at their sexual desires or anything like that. They're suppressing all of that. They're suppressing layers of themselves that God gave us for a reason, but they're suppressing all of that. And I had this thought, like, what if that's essentially what this demon is? It's like all these cloistered nuns, all their collective suppressed shadow, that has sort of like fed this demon, basically. So this demon is kind of representative and symbolic of the nuns, of all of their suppressed energy that they're not using sexually, their guilt, their shame, their fear of, oh, I had a sinful thought, I gotta pray, this shit that they've been conditioned to believe. So it's all suppressed and pushed down, but it's thought forms, and it goes somewhere, and it could be like that this demon is sucking it all up, and getting more powerful because of all of this, because of what they're repressing. So, you know, the demon is in a sense symbolic of what they're suppressing within themselves. And this one nun, she's able to keep fighting this demon because she's fearless. The other nuns will run from it. They don't want anything to do with it. They run from, they're essentially running from their darkness. They're running from their own suppressed shadow and darkness. And this one nun, she runs towards it. You know, she's willing to embrace her shadow, her dark side, in order to overcome it and fight it. So it's very symbolic. So it's a horror film, but it's very symbolic, like most of them are. But then it got me also thinking about all these women in the Middle East that are just like covered from head to toe and suppressed and abused and stoned to death, you know, and how much hate and anger that they're stuffing down. Like, and a lot of them probably won't even acknowledge it, just like these nuns, because they've been conditioned to fear those thoughts. Like, oh, I'm a bad person if I think ill of my husband that's abusing me. You know, so they stuff it down. But these are thought forms. This is energy, and it's building somewhere. And that's why the Middle East is so fucked up. That's why those men are cursed. Because what they're trying to suppress is suppressing them. That energy that they're suppressing in those women, it's manifesting somewhere else as their own suppression. And we've seen it in the United States. We've had a lot of shit going on in the United States in the last year or so. And what have we've had? We've had a lot of suppressed women. A lot of women that have had their body sovereignty taken away by men. A lot of abortion bans across the country. And their sovereignty being taken away. And by men that are like, once you have this baby, oh, you're on your own. Like, you know. So, yeah, there's a lot of boiling rage within the feminine towards the masculine, towards men these days. And just because they're not expressing it doesn't mean it's not there. And actually, it's more powerful when they don't express it. It means it's building. It's fucking building big time. And it's gonna... Just wait. When you see those women in the Middle East stand up, and you know it's fucking endgame for the patriarchy, you know, which, I mean, it kind of is anyway, but they're really going to, yeah. But it doesn't really matter, because really they've enslaved themselves. By enslaving their women, they've enslaved themselves. And the more they try to push this on women in this country and control women, they're just enslaving themselves more. You know, the thing that you try to suppress the most is actually something that you are growing and making more powerful in a way. Because what you're saying is, I fear this thing. It has power over me. So I'm going to keep doing everything I can to suppress it and control it and keep it from ever having power over me. And I don't ever have to do that. It's like, I trust God. I trust that God doesn't allow these things to have power over me, and I don't. So, but a lot of people don't trust God. They don't have true faith, and they're kind of like, I gotta do this, and I gotta do that. I gotta manipulate. How can I manipulate this person? How can I, let me do this, and, let me do this and see how she reacts. Let me if I do this one thing, maybe she'll get really jealous or pissed or hurt, and then I can get a reaction that I can feed off of, and I can feel superior, and she'll feel weaker, and she'll feel inferior, and that's how they always want to keep you down, keep you low, so that they got control. And the more you try to suppress, the less control you have, and the more power you give them. So, That's why I don't control anybody. If a man wants to be with me, he wants to be with me. If he don't, just fucking go. I'm not going to control your choices. And guess what? You can't control mine. So, that's the way it works. Anywho. So, anyway, respect the woman's no. It's time for the feminine to be respected and appreciated. As a woman, I love men. I respect men. I wouldn't want to live in a world without men. I'm heterosexual female. I love men. They're beautiful. Yeah. And I embrace my sexual energy and my desires. And I'd say I'm a fairly healthy woman. I've done a lot of work on myself and very self-conscious and aware of my own flaws. And very forgiving and understanding of others. But, I want a lot of what I give. I want it back from me in a relationship. And if I'm not getting the basics of respect and communication, healthy communication, and connection, trust, if I'm not getting those things, then I'm not going to give them. My time, my energy. Look, my love is unconditional and it's infinite, but my time and my energy and, my trust and my respect, those are conditional. Those have to be earned. So, but yeah. Our dads. I mean, again, I don't want to sound ungrateful. I love my dad. I appreciate everything he's done. My mom too. And sometimes we feel guilty about speaking up about these things because we feel like we're being ungrateful or a brat or something if we address these things that are bothering us. But, as adults, we are individuals and we have a right to our individuality and our preferences and to have that respected. I don't try to force my beliefs or anything on anybody. I just share, and hopefully inspire. That's all we can really do. Anyway, so that's all I got for today. That's my rant for today. Y'all have a good one.